So here I am, about to make a video on the Incredible Hulk when I realized...
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
Marvel released an Echo show. A show that no one really asked for a character that not a lot of people know exists. Now, I know it's becoming a trend to just sit here and complain over the newest Marvel project and talk about how it ruins my mental health and causes me to drink unnecessary amounts of alcohol. But that's not what I'm here to do. I'm serious. I actually don't think this show is that bad. Before I get into this show, however, I am going to try my best to explain the character of Echo and go through the plot of the show and then tie it up into a neat little bow because I actually have a lot to say about this show. And oh, by the way, if you didn't know, spoilers, you have been warned. Since this is a review of the show, I'm not going to spend too much time on her comic book origins. I'm only bringing this up for a point that I'm going to make later in this video. Echo is a character that I completely forgot about, so I know some of you have no idea who she is. Echo's real name is Maya Lopez. She was created by David Mack and Joe Quesada and was made to be kind of similar to Daredevil. You know how Daredevil is blind but can use his senses in an echolocation type ability, which explains why he is as formidable as he is? Well, Echo is deaf and can duplicate moves by just seeing them for only a second. Pretty simple stuff to understand, and I think it's really cool. In the comics, she was actually sent to unalive Daredevil by Wilson Fisk. As you know already, Kingpin likes to mess with people's heads. He told Echo that Daredevil was the reason why her father died, even though he was the one who called the order to have her father taken out. So after this, she shot old fat man in the face, leading him to be blind in the comics for a while. How did he live? Is probably the question you're asking, and my answer is comic books. After this, Marvel wanted to put her in more of a heroic position, so she would later on appear in stories with the Avengers and was actually the first person to become Ronin. Yes, before Hawkeye did. Believe it or not, she was also one of the first ones to figure out that there was a secret Skrull invasion of Earth. So yeah, Echo in the comics is pretty damn cool. But is she cool enough to have a show of her own? Well, before I actually watched it, my answer was no. I felt as if she would have just been a plot point for a Daredevil show when it returned, it would have been really cool, especially her before she came good. She could have been a really huge threat for Daredevil. Because in the comics, she was trained by watching Daredevil and Bullseye fight. But enough about the comics. I know why you're actually here. Is Echo a good show?
I don't know.
My feelings to this show are very confused. Some moments are really interesting, like this show knew how to keep me watching. It honestly feels very different to what we're used to. The Marvel formula is something that really brings these projects down, but I don't know, I feel this show doesn't suffer from the traditional formula. During parts of the show, I would forget that this is even a Marvel property, which during this era of the MCU, it is very much needed. First things first, they change Echo from her comic book counterpart. Unless I missed something, I think her skill to duplicate moves is completely gone, and now she's just good at fighting people. I think this shouldn't have been done only because we have a lot of people that are just good at fighting in the MCU. Having someone who can duplicate any move just by looking at it would be great, because the last time this was done, it was done with this bozo.
Boo! You stink!
You see, in this show, we have 3 plot points. One is Echo's family drama, which is way more interesting than number 2, which is her ancestors, the Choctaw people, and the abilities within their bloodline. And the last one is Echo going to war with Kingpin, which you already know is interesting. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't care much about the Choctaw people, mostly because we didn't get much information on them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we never get a full explanation on what the first descendants of this tribe even were. Where did they come from? Now, the family drama works really well in my opinion. The reason I like this a lot more is because it explains why Echo is so cold, and you see her start to change the more she runs into family members. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Every connection felt natural and not stiff, which I really have to compliment the actors for, because as of late, connections between actors are becoming more rare. I'm gonna use this time to tackle Fisk and Daredevil at the same time, because Daredevil was only in this show for like 2 seconds. God, I miss him. I don't care if I'm meat gargling. Daredevil is so goated. But for real, it was great to see Matt Murdock for just a little second because it gives Echo time to shine. I know I just said earlier that having Echo in a Daredevil show would have been a great idea. However, we already love Daredevil. I would have just ignored the plot just to see this man pop up again. But it's all good. I'll wait for you. I like how Daredevil is used in this show. It shows that Echo can actually throw hands, and to have Kingpin compliment her further shows that she is on that type of timing, man. Now, Kingpin was easily the best part of the show. His performance definitely wasn't his best, but I feel like the writers are holding a little something back for the future. I was satisfied with how intimidating Fisk was. In other shows, he always feels like he's a step ahead of everyone and just is unstoppable. But in this one, he feels like he's on a path to something later on. But hold on, I'm gonna get back to that when we talk about the end credit scene. I didn't like the last episode, not because it was necessarily bad, but because of how everything was solved by a MacGuffin. Now, throughout the show, it is said that the ability of the bloodline is that the ancestors will help them in times of need. And I thought they meant like Echo would gain a new skill or something from her ancestors whenever she needed it, like fighting, being good with guns, you know, all that. I mean, if that was the case, I would have been fine, but no. This ability gives her super strength. She can pass the strength onto others within the bloodline, and she can enter past memories of herself and others. See, that is a lot to ask for and barely any setup. I feel like if it was hinted to a little bit and further explained in a future project, then it could have been really cool, but nah. Let's just rush it because we only have 5 episodes. It left me wanting more, and hey, maybe that was the whole point. Then we have the end credit scene. Before making this video, I actually saw someone complaining about it, and I don't think everyone will agree with this, but to combat this, I will say to please read Devil's Reign. It is a really good story, and I am pretty sure this is what they're going to be basing their next projects off of. And if this is what they're doing, I am really excited because that means the street level heroes of Marvel are about to have the most rude awakening ever. Marvel's Echo honestly surprised me. I really love how grounded the story was and how it actually made me feel with some of the characters. The Fisk plot will of course be continued, and honestly I can't wait to see what he does next. I know this was a test run for Echo because again, no one really knows who she is, but I feel like if they honestly bring her a little teeny bit closer to how she is in the comics, she can almost be as good as Daredevil. Almost. I would just say that next time, don't take too many plot points and take your time with the ones you have. Flush them out slowly. But it definitely brought some interest to the character of Echo, which is always good. However, this show was not perfect. The ending came out of nowhere and could have had more weight if we had more time and more explanation. Felt like they forgot how many episodes this show was and they just needed to wrap this one up. It just needs to blossom a little bit more. 6.5 out of 10. It has potential.